The humble car seat, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways to tell what a driver thinks of their car and what they intend to use it for. Like these basic ass seats in this pretty basic ass Honda Civic show that this car is used for nipping to the shops and taking the dog on adventures, which makes sense because this particular Honda Civic is my wife's Honda Civic, and she doesn't care about the connection to the car or the driving experience or how it makes her look. Whereas this Honda Civic belongs to my best friend Hugo, and he does care both about the driving experience and how he looks doing it. And you can tell, even without seeing the outside of this car, that there's a guy who likes to spend his weekends on the track chasing people down, and you wouldn't be wrong about that. It's loud, both it looks and how it sounds. Man, it's fun though. Woohoo! I guess the question becomes, when you're buying your own project car and getting seats for them, what do you want it to say about the car? And what do you want it to say about you? Because it definitely matters. So, when picking the seats for my project car, I have to think, what do the seats say about me and what do they say about the car? Now, for a lot of people, you might just want to throw in some really cool bucket seats. I've had some Brides in mine for the last year or so, and I really like them, but they're really expensive. You know, set seats like that costs almost £2,000, and I'll be honest, my wife hates them. She can't get in and out of them. They're not super comfortable for long drives, and they did make our wedding day transportation really awkward. Plus, they say to me, this guy likes to get out on the track. I don't particularly like to get out on the track. So I'd like to go for a more retro, a more OEM plus kind of vibe. And the reference images that I'm using for the builds that I'm making use orange seats that you would get in the sunset orange version of the 350Z. So it makes sense for me to go down that direction. But finding a mint pair of those seats is basically impossible. They're all 20 years old, the bolsters have all gone, the stitching is coming undone. So if you want some and you want them to be mint, you're going to have them reupholstered. Now, I rang around a few upholstery companies, sent them some pictures of the seats I was thinking of, and the quotes came back anything from £600 to £800 per seat. How much? No way. So again, we're back up into that close to £2,000 range that we would be if we were just buying some cool bucket seats. So there's a third option. It's a secret option. We do all of the work ourselves. Yeah, because all we need to do that is the base seats, some leather and a few bits and a sewing machine, and we can do it for probably a fraction of the cost. And if we can reverse engineer a circuit board, we can reverse engineer a seat, right? So I'm going to take you through all the steps that you might need to go through if you want to reupholster your seats or find some new ones and breathe new life into them, and how we can get them looking spanking and back in the car. So let's go find ourselves some base seats at my good friend Simon's Breakers Yard, J-Spec Garage. So Simon at J-Spec Garage here has told me that he's got a variety of seats. Aha! Speak of the devils. These are orange seats from a convertible 350Z. These are actually super rare. They're called the ventilated option, and you can actually see all the way through that middle bit of the mesh. They were like a £6,000 option if you got them, and we've got both of them. That could be a good option because they're a little bit special and a little bit interesting. We do have some orange seats. I mean, they're going to be reupholstered either way, so the colour doesn't technically matter. You have to have a sit, right? These are the normal coupe seats, and they are comfortable. I think my heart says the vented, slightly more interesting seats are probably the way to go. Got to do a comparison. Oh, they're a little bit snugger on the side, and because it's mesh, you don't move. Yeah, I'm sold. We're going to take these ones. So these are going to be the choice. So I'm going to get these, take them home, and we'll reupholster them, make them look brand new. That's a super cool option for this car. Oh my god! These are definitely more weighty than the Brides were. So obviously a seat is a lot bigger and a lot more intimidating than doing something like a shift knob or just recolouring a bit of plastic, but it's not too difficult. Before I do anything, I'm just going to attack it with a Sharpie so I know what panels go where and where the seams go together, but only on bits that I'm not going to reuse. All the orange leather's coming off, basically. The black on the back and the mesh is all in really good condition, so I'm just going to keep that and we'll reuse that, but all the orange is getting replaced. I have no idea why I decided to use Roman numerals for this. 2, 3, this is better. So now I need to take the seat apart, and whilst doing it, create a list of the order that things happen so that I know when I'm putting them back together, I just reverse that order. That's the base out and the covers and stuff all off. Good start. This frame rail needs cleaning up, so I'm going to have to hit it with a rotary wire and, you know, clean it all up, get the rust off, and then repaint it. That'll do afterwards. For now, let's keep taking these seat parts apart. Oh my god! And this bit's actually pretty simple. All we're going to do is cut the seams really carefully until I've got all of these as individual panels. So the underside of this is all held together with these little hog rings, which just tension the leather, and they're just round rings. And just yank them off like this. Twist them, and we're off. It's obviously really important to know what order you need to put these covers together when you're constructing it, and you can figure that out whilst you're taking it apart. So if we look at this collection of seams here, we can use this to figure out what order it was put together, because this seam goes underneath this seam and goes underneath this seam, which means these two panels were put together and then these ones were put on afterwards. So then if we follow this seam and this seam all the way down to where they meet at the bottom, this one on this side goes underneath this, which means these two pieces were put on together before this bottom piece. So we can completely reverse engineer it. That's way too many pieces. Now I need to transfer them all onto card. Yay. In case you're wondering, this straight line and this symbol here means fold. So because it's symmetrical, I want to make sure that it is properly symmetrical. So you just do half of it, and then when I'm cutting it out, I'll cut out half, fold it, trace it, do the half. Makes life a bit easier. Otherwise, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces down, 40 odd to get.
Several hours later.
That's a lot of pieces, but now I can start putting it onto the leather because the leather has arrived. And this isn't it, this is the original one. But as we can see, even with the original leather, there are major colour variances because of, you know, the ravages of time and sunlight and butts sitting on it. So my new leather is there. It's hefty. And you can see when we compare the colours, it is slightly different. It's a little bit more of a red orange as opposed to this, which is like a yellowy browny orange. But I think it'll breathe really good new life into these seats, and Yeah, it will make them feel a little bit more vibrant and a little bit more vivid. And I think that's a really good thing. The reason eBay is the way you want to go when you're buying leather is because I got 50 square feet or 4.8 square meters for under £80. It's a lot of leather, and that should do the entire thing. So I've got back this leather with some 3 and 5mm scrim, transfer all the patterns to it, put it all out, sew it all back together, stick it back on the seats, and it should be good. Yeah, how hard could it be, right? If you want to do this, it will take you a lot longer than you think. It's taken me 2 full days to put all this scrim backing on and cut everything out. And it's important to note that I've used 2 different kinds of scrim. These pieces over here are on a thicker scrim. This is 6mm. These are all like the bolsters and the things that go around your butt, basically. And they're on a slightly thicker scrim because it gives it some padding. The rest of it, all of these bits that are just structural around the back and the sides, are just on a 3mm scrim. Just gives it a little bit of rigidity. But I've got to take all of these parts, the original parts, so like all of this mesh backing and the foam bits and all the bits that have got the, the hog ring ties and the zips, and put it all back together. So it's going to take several days. I've got my Singer sewing machine, my heavy duty, ready to go, and I found the right matching thread. So this is Gutermann 982 sew all thread. I only really use Gutermann threads, but these are a fantastic colour match to this burnt orange. Should be good. So yeah, time to start sewing for several days, but it means we're closing in on the end of having this done. I'm going seat crazy. Turns out all that work I did putting the little lines on the leather in order to make sure the seams all lined up wasn't necessary, because the original bit of leather has all these little snips on the inside that show you, where to line everything up with. So like this seam here lines up with this little snip that's in the leather. So long as you transfer those onto your pattern, which I did, you basically got a guide of how this all gets put together. So this is the bottom part of the seat. And if we were just to wrap the leather around it and like clamp it on the back, this middle section would raise up. So in order to counteract that, we use these hog rings. And they're basically, this is a hog ring tool if you've never seen one. These C-shaped rings you just put into here and then clamp, and they close shut. So we use it to clamp 2 things together. Like this seat, all around the underside here, has got a metal frame, and there's actually a bit of a leftover hog ring in here as well. But there's a metal wire that we can see down here that runs around the underside. And the bottom of the seat has got these netting bits on it with the solid plastic bits, which you basically are just going to clamp the 2 bits together. It's not difficult. It's just a case of putting this in like this, going through the hole onto the wire, and then clamp. And then that's it. And then basically that'll just hold the low sections in the low sections and mean that the entire seat keeps its shape a bit better than it would if you didn't use the rings. And then once all they're on, we can flick the seat over and do the same on the bottom, because we have to tension, grab some O-rings on the bottom. And that's it. That's hog rings. You will need to use these. So I could have recorded all this, but honestly it's just me clipping and sewing and clipping and sewing and clipping and sewing for several days. Probably not all that interesting. Anyway, how are you today? Having a good week? Maybe tell me about something cool that happened to you recently. Oh, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks! Several days of sewing later, the first of the 2 seats is complete. This is the passenger side seat, and I was going to put it back in the car, but I've realised that it's got a bit of a problem. You see, because it's a seat from a convertible, it typically has this cool little box that goes on the bottom of it, which is called the power seat control box. And what this does is something very specific for the passenger seat. In a convertible, when you put the top up and down, it moves the seat to make sure that there's enough clearance. So it's like a little ECU just for the seat. Because of this, the loom, which comes on a convertible passenger seat, has got all these connections for the power control box that also go into the seat and into the car, but the clip that goes into the car is completely different to the clip that comes out of the car on a coupe, which means I can't connect this seat to the car and get the power to do all the powered bits. So I've got to figure out a way of converting this so that it can work from potentially a different loom. And I do have an idea because of the way motors work in these seats. Let me show you. Now this isn't the same for all seats, but in this seat in particular, there's a control switch here, which has two forward-backward rocker switches. And what they do is power the motor for the tilt and the motor for the shifting forwards and backwards. If we take a look at the one from the other seat, you'll notice it's got 6 wires that go into it. And basically this is a power and ground going in, and then 4 wires that distribute out to the various motors, because motors don't care about power and ground. If you put power and ground in one way, the motor will spin clockwise or anti-clockwise. Then if you flip the polarity, it'll spin in the opposite direction. So we can test that using a power supply like this. And if I find the loom or the clip on the bottom of the seat, this one here, this is the one that goes into this. So this is the front motor, which does the forwards and backwards motion. It doesn't matter which way around I clip these. So I'm going to put ground on that one and then power on that one, just being careful not to let them touch and short circuit. So then if I switch on the power, it should move in one direction. There you go, it's moving forwards. So then if I switch the polarity at this end, I'm just going to take these wires out, these connections out of here, and swap them around and turn it on again. It should go in the opposite direction, just like that, until it hits its maximum range of motion. Oh, no, okay, well, what that means is all that extra connection stuff that does all the automated forwards and backwards from the power box can be removed. I've got a feeling that if I was to use the loom from a driver's seat, I might be able to have all of the connections, but then I'd need to change a couple of the harness clips, like this one on the back. There's this little input for the harness, and it's got a red and green input, and then it's got 2 other little ones, a black one and a green one, which are behind the back of it. The driver's seat only has the red and green. Now I've done a little test just like that on these 2 red and green ones, and it does do the tilt. So these extra wires are the ones that I don't need. They're the ones that go to the power control, because we're taking all of this stuff out. These buttons and stuff that are up here, I'm not going to be using for anything related to the seat, so it doesn't matter. So what I need to do is get this clip from a driver's seat, as well as the driver's seat full electrical loom, and then I can basically replace it on this and swap out the entire driver's seat connection into this passenger seat, which then means it should just work because the clips in the car are the same. So I need to go to see my good friend Simon over at J-Spec Garage and hopefully bastardise one of his seats and pull it apart and take out the clips. I know he's got some that are going to the scrap heap anyway, so maybe there's one that's got the harness in that I can steal. So let's go see what he's got. This will have all the same connections that the passenger seat has, but it will mean there's a little clip underneath here, which if I find it and take it out, then I'll be able to convert into my passenger seat. So this all comes apart easily enough, and if we unzip this, it should be just under here. There. So I need this. Oh, that can come home with me, as well as the rest of the loom. There we go. So this is the piece that I need. Big thanks to Simon over here at J-Spec Garage again for letting me come and tear this seat apart. I think this one's going to the scrapyard though, so we saved some of it. What a legend. One driver's seat clip with the red and green wires. So I just need to snip these wires at the back and then connect these in. I'm just going to use some quick connects just while we make sure it all works, and then I can solder it all up afterwards. And then I can take the driver's loom, try connect and get to the car and just make sure all the tilt stuff works. Pretty easy though. I think that's it. It's as simple as that. Red to red, green to green. So throw it in the car, see if it moves. Fingers crossed. So these are the two clips and we're in. So in theory, yeah, there we go. Whee. One seat, all those forums that said you can't adjust these, you're wrong. Oh, you could sleep in it. Now, we could do another maker's montage showing the 9 days of sewing that it took to put these things together. But I don't think you necessarily want to watch that. And if you do enjoy watching really cool sewing and upholstery content, check out any of these creators because they're all really good at it. All you need to know right now is that these seats are complete. And they're looking absolutely banging. Now, there are a few little issues with them because I'm a human being and I'm fallible and I make mistakes. So there are creases and tuckers in a few parts. Heck, there was a hole in the middle of this that I had to patch up, but they're 100 times better than they were. And I think those tiny little imperfections show that they've been made by a human being, not a robot in a warehouse. And I'm okay with that. So let's get this project wound up, stick these back in the car and see how it looks with that new OEM fresh interior. So the mission of this journey had 3 parts. 1, could I create a seat that felt right for the image of what I wanted this car to be? 2, could I do it for less than it would cost to get them professionally reupholstered? And 3, is it something that I think Rachel Teller would put in her car? And I think we've hit all 3 in a really good way. These seats say to me, there's a person who's made a decision, a conscious decision about them, but has not picked just plain boring black seats. Even within the scope of being inside a 350Z, they're a little bit interesting, even though they're only OEM. And they're going to be a lot more comfortable for long distance journeys. My wife, who is behind the camera, is very happy about this. Number 2, could we do it less than it would cost to get them professionally reupholstered? Yeah. All in all, it cost about £450 when you add on all the extra little bits that we didn't account for. Obviously, there's a sewing machine cost in there as well for about £250, but still, we did the entire job for about the price that it would cost to have just reupholstered one of the seats. And 3, do these fit the Rachel Teller vibe that this car is being moved into? And I, again, think, yeah, given how the car is going to look and the craziness of the outside, I think it makes sense that the inside would have been a little bit unique and a little bit individual, even though feeling really period correct and accurate to the car. I'm very happy how this has all come out. It's finished off the interior really nicely and it's just added that little bit of colour that makes it really interesting. If you've got any questions about putting together seats like this, I don't pretend to be an expert, but I do know a fair bit. So feel free to just drop them in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope something really good happens to you today, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, peeps. Bye-bye. Oh, my keys are... Where are my keys?